Hello and welcome to another episode of Where the Rubber Hits the Road. We talk about situations where we have different expectations and we face different reality than what expectations we have. And that's where, for us, the rubber hits the road. Where the rubber hits the road, there is friction, and it depends on how you handle that friction, your stress levels, or your potential to get burnt out from that friction. In this podcast, we talk with different leaders, industry experts about what they have learned, how to handle this friction, what to do in situations like this. And today we have one fantastic leader, one fantastic expert with us. Our paths crossed when we were working in operating room improvements. We collaborated on quality improvement, operations improvement, and different projects related to improvements in OR, operating rooms. Today we have Tim's. Welcome, Tim's, to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here. How are you doing?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing well, thank you. So let's let me introduce Tim's to you. Tim's is a registered nurse with medical surgical background. She has extensive experience working in OR, operating rooms, that ultimately led her to different leadership roles. And now she has taken a leap into a completely different world of quality. She works as a quality nurse consultant. She works on improving surgical outcomes. She has passion for performance improvement. And that's where I said our paths crossed when we were trying to improve performance in the OR. And so from nursing world to OR, from OR to quality, we'll talk about the transition and we'll talk about her experiences where she felt the friction when the rubber hit the road. Let's start, Tim's.
Let's do it.
So the obvious first question is, what was your first experience um, where you had something in your mind, your expectations were different than the reality you faced?
So, it actually started when I was after I graduated from nursing, and I had this first work. It's a medical surgical unit, and when I have started my job, it seems like I don't really know what to do. And having this 4 years of nursing, second year we started clinical with our clinicals,
Mhm.
and you would feel that after taking your board exam that you're well prepared of
Right.
the job you're actually going to do. So it seems frustrating, it seems scary, and there's so many fears of not knowing because
Mhm.
we're providing care to the patients. And so um, at that point, it's hard to find someone who would really have your back. But there's one person who actually informed me that, hey, you are not expected to know everything. Just check and see what resources and tools that we have and work from there. And so that actually stuck in my mind because it's quite true that nobody knows everything. So that's one thing that I've learned because it's hard when you're trying to do the job that you've prepared yourself to for several years, and when you started, not know what to do. So that's when I had the greatest challenge with.
That's really true. I mean, you said this, no one is expected to know everything, but we work under the perception that, or this is our expectations from ourselves that I'm a nurse, so I have to know this. I have to know how to handle this. Um, how do you think role of preceptor helps in situation like this?
Oh, big help because through the years of your career or your life, you'll have these preceptors, you'll have these mentors, And they play a big role because it basically molds you into the person that you're going to be and that you are right now. I've had preceptors who are really not caring that much, and they just want to do it for differential. And there are preceptors who really have this kind of succession planning in mind, where they truly nurture you because they want you to be a better nurse that you can be, or the best nurse that you could be. Because down the road, it's basically thinking that it's a legacy.
Right.
And through the years, I'm really thankful to the preceptors who went above and beyond in providing me the knowledge and the teaching me the skills that I need to be a safe and effective nurse. So it's a very important, and that's really the reasons why having the preceptor training and choosing the right preceptor should be paramount in training the nurses.
Right. Absolutely. You use the word safe and effective nurse. I like that. Um, do you, so safe and effective is one part of your role. The other part that demands the demand is from the system you work in is efficiency.
Mhm.
So when you work in real life environment, after graduating from nursing school, how do you find it that do you learn things about that in nursing schools, or do you have the efficiency in mind, or do you have perfection in mind that I want to do my job perfectly versus I want to do my job efficiently and perfectly? So what's that dilemma? If you have you ever faced that dilemma, like
Always, always,
on
because I have a personality, so we want to do the best, and we want to perform. Uh, and the problem is that sometimes you really have a lot of challenges. You have a lot of barriers, and knowing that and accepting that this is not a perfect world, and there are many challenges that you have to break down to be able to achieve um, what you want or the goals that you want. And
Mhm.
so in time, you would be able to work into improving your processes, improving your skills with the right exposure and the right training and the right knowledge.
Right, that's the key to it. You have to learn the skills, and that's what we focus big time on. We focus on spreading awareness about cross-skilling.
Mhm.
Upskilling is one thing. Upskilling into your own domain, like in your clinical domain, is one thing. That's your natural progression. But cross-skilling, for example, like you did it. You started as a nurse. You work your way through your nursing career. And at one point, you said that um, quality world is also interesting, and I can apply whatever I have learned in nursing to quality, right? So, do you think cross-skilling really empowers nurses along with upskilling?
Yes, definitely. Because, for example, if just you're just so focused to do your work, just like, for example, bedside, this is the routine. But then you also need to think about what processes am I doing and how can I improve it? So basically, we may think that we're all just so focused with one thing, but we're actually doing a lot of other things already. We're just not aware. We're just not informed.
Right.
Um, but with my experience, it's really helpful when I have this problem and you research on what's the root cause of this problem, what are the factors that are contributing to it, what are the causes, and of course you have to also do a survey. Am I the only one experiencing this? It may be a user kind of problem. And so actually it started with that, and having the knowledge not only about operating room, but also looking into researching about other hospitals or other people's problems and how they are able to solve it. And that's when it starts to have some sparks or light bulb moments that, hey, it's just not purely OR kind of thing. It's
Mhm.
actually a quality improvement thing. And not only that, it's also by MedSurg, L&D, the labor and delivery, because we're kind of very similar in a lot of ways. And so that's very, very important to um, thinking about those kind of things.
Right. Absolutely. And that's how I learned about healthcare processes, because my background is engineering. My research was on agility while doing my master's. And when I started looking at the process level, I found applications of all that I was doing in healthcare. And that's how I entered healthcare and have been working in healthcare for past 20 years now almost. So you are right. You have to look at the process level. When you are working on something, you many times lose the focus of the process because you are so engrossed in the work that you are doing. You are not looking beyond that. So there is a quality component to that. There is efficiency component to that. There is satisfaction component to that. Um, like when you are working in OR, you have to keep in mind that your patients, they are looking for positive outcomes of their surgery. So their satisfaction, a nurse has to keep in mind. You are also serving the business, so you have to keep business satisfaction in mind. That's where efficiency comes into picture, and access comes into picture for patients and business. And you should not forget about your satisfaction. So tell me something about that you did when you transitioned from school to actual world, or from your one job to the next. Um, what did you do to address your frustrations? One thing you mentioned, that you continued to learn, you continued to go beyond whatever you were trying to do and understand the bigger picture, understand the system. But how did you handle that frustration that comes when the reality is different? What's your secret?
I think there's no, it's just hard work, really, and dedication to learn. And also finding the right resources as well, because not all resources are created equal. And at that point, when I started nursing, uh, I then found myself looking into articles to update myself about the changes in healthcare, because every single research, if there's a new research, then the practice would change based on
Mhm.
that. And so it
Mm.
really helped me when I have this mindset, a novice mindset, that I don't know everything. I need to work hard to be skilled and to be a good nurse, at least. And with that, knowing that I need to do a lot of hard work and I need to set time um, to study, it helps me become more humble and more thirsty to learn and appreciate the seasoned nurses that I work with. Because in life, you have two role models. You have a role model of who to become, and another role model of who to not become. So that's really important for me because I would be able to see the contrast and the pros and cons. Um, Also, Amaya, I wish that when I was starting to be a nurse, I wish that satisfaction farm has already been created, because if I had that, I may have um, I may have become more knowledgeable at the very beginning of my career, because it's very helpful when you don't know much and you have a lot of things in your mind and you want to be the to provide the best care possible. um, it's good to have that knowledge that you're sharing to everyone, because all the things that we do all the things in life that we do are processes. And if we then try to improve the processes that we have and have that knowledge in mind on how to improve it, then that would have been very helpful. So I wish it was available then.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and that's what we are trying to do now. Um, Better late than never, I would say. But our effort is to teach nurses and everyone who works in healthcare um, throughout the full spectrum, through new graduates, through seasoned nurses who are maybe close to retiring, that everything is a process. You know that, but there might be some things you might want to explore more. And ultimately, what we have found that all this is linked to your well-being. Ultimately, if you know the processes in and out, you work better. When you work better, there is less friction. When there is less friction, there is less stress, less heat. And when there is less heat, less chances of you getting burnt out. So that's what we are trying to spread out to everyone now. And thank you for your kind words. I appreciate the feedback. And so that brings me to a point that you went through a lot of transition from as a new nurse graduate to nurse, OR nurse, different leadership roles in OR, within the OR space. And then from there to quality nurse consultant. And now you are settled into that role very nicely. You love the role. So at the back of your mind, when you think about all this transition, um, how do you think your well-being was affected? In which phase of this journey was your well-being affected the most by the friction? Was it towards the beginning of your career, towards the middle, or now where you are?
Definitely in the beginning of my career. So there are so many things to learn, so many things to adjust. And I still don't know what I want at that time. I was just still trying to figure it out. I was in medical surgical because my professors told us that that should be the first or the foundation. And I'm so thankful I listened because knowing being exposed to medical surgical nursing actually helped me to become a better OR nurse because there are some things that we don't do or we're not aware of in the OR that medical surgical nurses are doing. And we kind of work with them when we get the patients from the floor and also the nurses in the recovery room and preoperative units are actually from medical surgical field. And so I would be able to empathize with them, what they actually need during the report. And those are the things that help me communicate with them in the OR. And another thing is that when you don't know what you wanted to do, you try to, you feel like you're hitting the wall because I would have to be honest that in my career, they said that, oh, you have to be thankful you're a nurse because especially that you have good compensation. But then on the other side of it, I may not be aware that I'm not the only one who has all these anxieties, all this fear in my mind, that when you go to work or when you're about to go to work, there's so much fear because there are times that you don't know what to do if the patient's already having problems. It's like you're stuck. So that's the reason why I always have in my mind, you need to know who your resources are because that's going to be your call a friend at
Right.
work.
That's your lifeline,
Yes,
right?
yes. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that stuck with me, and I just take one step at a time. I didn't When I was working in med surge, I was thinking of other professions because it's just so stressful doing bedside at that time. Um, but then it didn't stop me from being from going to work because I know that I have my resources, I have my support, and then eventually I tried. Um, what if I try operating room nurse? And the reason why I thought about that is when I was in school, we had this training in the operating room and labor and delivery where we have to be exposed to 10 major 10 major operations,
Mhm.
10 minor operations, and also 10 assisting the delivery and 10 actual deliveries. And
Mhm.
so I was so fascinated with the operating room. And I think one of the factors as well is that we had a great clinical instructor. So that's the reason why preceptors, mentors are really important in your life.
Yes.
So it's still in the back of my mind, operating room nursing, because of that training that I had. It's a very positive and very fulfilling. And so I tried to apply for a perioperative 101 program. It's an intensive program, 6 months, for operating room nurses. And so thankfully, I was accepted. And from then on, I've worked as an operating room nurse. And my journey with quality, actually, I was exposed from the very beginning. I just didn't know that it was already quality improvement. I just didn't know. I didn't know the terminologies, but I know I was doing the work. And
Right.
so with that, um, my first OR training, we are all standardized. And I didn't even know the word standardized at that time when I was starting. Wherever you go, what unit you go to, they have sports medicine, they have main operating room, they have head and foot, all three units. We were trained how to set up the instruments all the same. So even if you float from one unit to another, you would know that the setups are the same, where the basin is, where the scissors should be. But of course, the instruments would differ because
Right.
uh,
Depending on the case.
the prepping and the how to drape the patients, it's standardized. I didn't realize that until I went to another hospital where there's so many variations. And so that's when I came to mind. It's like, why is this hospital all the same? And then this other hospital is not. And then I went to another hospital, working there after about 9 years. I went to another hospital and they have the same problems. But the good thing about that is they are working on standardization
Mhm.
and um, lessening the variations. And when I was working as an assistant or manager, I've seen a lot of improvement opportunities. And that's when I felt like it's so empowering to see that there's so many improvement opportunities. How would I be able to achieve those? And so, as in the leadership role, we usually work closely with quality professionals.
Yes.
We have this roundings, and so we talk about it. And so basically, I was more involved with the quality department at that time. And then it happened from there, there was an opening for a quality nurse whose focus would be operating room or the
Right.
para. And I became so interested and I applied. And it's basically what I am so enthusiastic about, the peri-op nursing. And I feel so empowered knowing that I would still be able to work with a peri-op team. So that's when I transitioned to quality. still as a surgical nurse consultant.
That is so inspiring. I mean, that journey has gone through so many experiences that must be fulfilling right now, whatever you're doing.
That's true. Yes, very fulfilling.
Yeah, that's nice. I hope everyone gets that experience of fulfillment. But the key points you mentioned, I wanted to talk about. You talked about variation. Variation in our experience, when we are trying to improve processes or improve experiences, variation is number one enemy of processes. Variation is number one enemy of experiences. I mean, if you want to set up the best experiences all the time, which is now the requirement from the patients, and also from the business, what we see, if we see more variation in process at process level, we can predict that you can meet expectations only half the time, 50% of the time. And our whole focus is to reduce that variation. So standardization is one of the methods we use, and you talked about it, standardizations. But you also talked about explore what is out there, like what can be out there that might be interesting for you. That is one way of getting better, creating better experiences for yourself and improving experiences for your business and also for your customers who are your patients. Because when you learn more, you use subconsciously, you use all that knowledge in the processes you currently work in. So following that thread of variation, I have a question. What tips would you give to nurses who are just joining the healthcare workforce? And because I'm asking this question because we are seeing more and more nurses leaving bedside jobs in the first couple of years of their career because of stress, because of working conditions, because of burnout. And we say that if you don't know how to navigate through first 2 years of your nursing career, you must learn. If you don't know, you must learn how to. And that's where we want to focus. So what tips would you like to give to nurses? You talked about one, get involved in more activities, get involved in more um, knowledge areas, more domains than the core domain you work in. What tips would you like to give to nurses?
That's a good question, Ameya. So I think first we need to ask ourselves, why are we going into nursing? Because some people go to nursing for different reasons, and one of those is the money. And it's understandable that they may be, or we may be getting paid higher than the norm because of the work that entails for us to do every single time. So I would like to share one asked me, and she asked me, is still a good time for me to be a nurse? And I asked her back, are you willing to do what a nurse would do or is currently doing? Because you need to know what we're doing, not just because of the compensation, not just because of the prestige of working as a nurse. You need to be able to be aware of what the struggles the nurses are experiencing. If you're willing to do those things, like smelling the poop during the operating, real cleaning after the patient, and all those things, learning continuously or being a perpetual learner, then yes, definitely. Because if it's only about money, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to cause you a lot of frustration every single time you go to work, because it's more than that. You have to have this inner motivation that you want to do what is best, and you want to make a difference and add value to your patients and to the people you're working around,
Right.
right? The patients that are our customers. It's actually the surgeons, our leaders, and even the staff. So all of them are our customers. And if you're not willing to be able to work cohesively and be respectful in every way, then that's not the place for you. And I'm sorry to be to be so negative, but I just want to be real.
It's not negative. It's actually not negative. I have many experiences with healthcare staff, nurses included, where they came into healthcare workforce because it paid better. The better pay is for a reason, all the reasons you just mentioned. So that's why it is justified. The pay is justified. But if you don't have that purpose, or if you don't have that intrinsic motivation to be in that profession, then you are at the risk of getting burnt out, getting frustrated every day at work. Other aspect of that is many people have purpose when they come in. Their purpose starts eroding or taking hits where they don't know, like you talked about, hitting the wall. They keep hitting the wall. And they are passionate about their work. They want to do work for the right reason, for the purpose they have, but they don't know the system. And that's where they start hitting the wall. They start getting frustrated. The pressure starts mounting, the stress starts increasing. So if someone asks me that should I go into any profession, nursing is one of them. I also use the same thing, like, are you ready to do that? Whatever it takes to get the job done. And are you willing to understand the system? Because just don't go in for the pay. If you don't understand the system, that money is not going to serve you at all. You will be so frustrated, irritated, burnt out that you won't be able to enjoy whatever you are getting paid. So it is so much critical that understanding the system and having that purpose, they go hand in hand. Because otherwise what we see a lot of passion out there. Passion driven individuals get frustrated because they couldn't handle the system. And we had an intern in our department, PI department, who went through the similar experience and couldn't understand the system, was not ready to understand the system. And we give that example in one of our modules, like what to do in situations like this. They have solutions in their mind, great solutions, nothing wrong with having solutions. But before solutions, there is a step to be done. You have to find the root cause of the problem, and then you have to eliminate the root cause to make your solution work and make your solution sustain. And that's where I see when I talk with new nurse graduates that try to understand the system. You must understand the working of 3 M's: mindsets, methods, and money. If you don't understand how these 3 things work together, how the dynamics is, there is most probably you are going to face the negative impact of your work. And I'm so glad you pointed that out, that the purpose has to be there and they have to come in for the right reason. And of course, they have to continuously learn. You use the word perpetual learner. So let me ask you one more question related to the same thing, perpetual learning. The best learning is, in my mind, whatever you can use to experience good things for yourself. For example, learning a system is a skill, and you can use that skill to grow. You can use that skill to grow in career, grow in personal life, grow in professional life. What skill, non-clinical skill, would you recommend to nurses or anyone who works in healthcare if they want to go forward in their career? What is that one skill that comes into your mind?
One skill definitely helped me with my career and preventing burnout is problem solving skills. And accountability as well. Because with the problem solving skills, it helped me have hope that this problem can be solved. And so, and with that, I also wanted to correlate it with information, because you can't just solve the problem without the adequate or the right information. And so it helped me throughout my career. And let me just tell you one example where it all started, and I didn't really expect it to be big, but I was in the operating room and I was already prepping the patient. So basically, my hands are sterile. I can't touch anything and I can't go anywhere.
Right.
So I have to call my partner, the OR assistant, to get me an equipment. So it's a cautery, helps with preventing the bleeding.
Right.
Unfortunately, the cautery that we have malfunctioned, and so it's a good thing we found it at the beginning before the case begun.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her to get it, but unfortunately, she didn't know what it looks like and where to find it. And so that means I have to call another person. And that person was able to get the equipment that we need. But then at the end of my shift, I was still thinking, how can this person who worked in the operating room for decades do not know what a cautery looks like? That's one. And two, they can't find it. So there's a problem with that, the location. And so that's when I went to my manager and asked her, may I be able to post a picture of the pieces of equipment that we have in our storage room, and then have that corner be designated to that equipment so there's no confusion. From there, also, we have to, the storage room should be service specific. One is for general surgery, orthopedics. You get the idea, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. And so I was able to do the project, but then we were able to uncover more concerns on that, like the preference cards. And for your listeners, the preference cards is basically like a recipe or a manual instructions for the OR nurses, the OR assistant, to the team on what we need to for the surgeons to be able to do their surgery
Right.
effective. So anyway, we were able to uncover a lot of problems with that. And so that became a big project, because from there, we had a preference cards or procedure card, other institutions call it edits. We were able to edit all those so that the location of the pieces of equipment that we use would be there, and there will be no confusion amongst the OR team. So that's one of the things that I was kind of happy about, because it was a frustration within me. And of course, I'm not blaming that OR assistant, but I was trying to figure out there's something wrong with this. And so that's about it. Because all through the years, the cautery actually changed. It's no longer just a flat blue equipment. It became a big tower because we're able to add more use for that. And they call it triad now, which probably made her more confused because it's called triad.
Right.
So it's one of the things that I would tell you. And from there, if you're thinking, this is so frustrating, then I would have this animosity or bitterness with that OR assistant, thinking, oh, he may be just not as hardworking as everybody is.
Right.
So when you're trying to, when you're having that bitterness in your mind, then you're going to just have this wall, hit the wall, and be so negative and pessimistic. rather than trying to find ways on how to solve this problem. So it gave me hope. Actually, it gave me a sense of fulfillment that, hey, this could be a better place to work in, because we were able to improve and actually have my coworkers participate, be engaged, because we're all experiencing the same thing.
So
So
true, so true. I mean, problem solving, first, it helps you solve problem. Second, you mentioned it gives you hope that things can be better. Third thing, when you work with your team members, that's also a team bonding, team building activity. It could turn into a team building activity when you are trying to solve problem as a team. It also gives you a peek, a view into the system you work in. Because you mentioned that you did not want to blame the person because the system was not set up. The standardization was not in place, and that's the opportunity you found to improve upon. So again, going back to the system and not to the people, if you know the system and if you know how to solve problems, you mentioned how hope can generate from that, right? So I think every nurse, every healthcare professional must bear in mind, as a nurse, in fact, you solve problems in your clinical work. You're solving problems, you're finding out root causes, you're um, trying to design, trying to take actions to eliminate those root causes. Your focus is only patient. When you use the same skill of problem solving in processes not related to the patients directly, it can make wonders, right? So to me, nurses are natural problem solvers. Doctors are natural problem solvers. So that's a very interesting connection you made, that problem solving is connected to hope. And that fits right into our thinking at Satisfaction Farm, that problem solving is at the core of everything you do. Because if you want better experiences, you must know how to get them. For that, you need to go to the future state from the current state, and you must know how to go to the future state from the current state by solving problems in the current state. And that connection of problem solving, hope, when we look at the big picture, it's ultimately connected to your well-being.
Mhm.
Because when you have that hope, you are on the path of well-being, or you experience that well-being. And our term for that is productive well-being, because now you are productive on your work side. We are not talking about financial productivity numbers, but you are productive, you are fulfilled by the work you are doing. And that helps you maintain your well-being, experience your well-being, and improve ultimately upon wherever you are right now. So that's a very interesting connection you made.
Thank
That comes from experience, right? That's why we have this podcast, Where the Rubber Hits the Road, because and someone might not know that problem solving can generate hope, or problem solving can empower you. That having that mindset, I mean, you got help wherever you were trying to solve that problem, you got help there. Some people might not get help from the system, from the administration, management, or whatever structure they are working in. But if you have that in your mind, that this is the problem I know and this is the way I can solve it, or I can try to solve it, you can find other systems, you can find other workplaces where you can use that skill. That's the skill that goes with you. It doesn't, you don't leave your skill behind. Like your knowledge goes with you, your skills go with you. And that's why I think it is absolutely critical for nurses, doesn't matter where they are in the spectrum of their career, to focus on cross-skilling. Now, problem solving is one of the cross-skilling areas. Problem solving in non-clinical domains is a cross-skill. One more skill is to understand the system. What are the mindsets of people you are working with, or mindsets of stakeholders? What is business expecting from you? Can you speak the business language? Can you present a problem to management in terms of their language? Is a big skill that I have seen. There is a gap. And one of the things that we hear in nursing about is nursing shortage, um, shortage of qualified nurses in the work pool. And the default argument is we want more staff, we want more nurses, right? Now, that's not the language of business. That is your experience, that is what you want. But if you can present a business case that how having those extra FTEs, full-time employees, extra nurses, is going to help you solve some problems, improve experiences, and ultimately improve your business experience or bottom line for business, have more access for patients, then that becomes more um, useful to talk about with that information. You talked about that, you how to get information, how to gather information and put that information to use in whatever you are doing. It's a skill. So you brought us back in this conversation to why is it important for nurses to to go beyond their clinical domain and learn these skills of gathering information, having information, processing data, understanding system, problem solving. Life would be much better, right?
Totally, yes. And going back to that, that you pointed out that you need to learn the language. It's very critical, whether you're planning to be in the leadership role or not. But even if bedside nurses working on that, because that's going to be your pitch. The leaders need to be able to relate to what you're saying and how would it be benefit the institution. So
Right.
you need those things. And with your statement that with a mindset, method, and money, yeah, that's so 100% true. Because being in the role that I'm in, we're able to work with the key leaders. We were working with them. We're basically like the middle people
Right.
in qualities because we don't have authority. We only influence. So we influence the leaders based on what we see with the end users, with the staff members. And bridging the gap would help us then influence and create change. So that's very important because the leaders won't know if you're going under the drape just to insert a Foley catheter. They won't understand that. Only the bedside nurses are doing it. But then if you correlate that with productivity, efficiency, and satisfaction, and all this business terminologies or business indicators that we're looking into as a business, then that would have a buy-in on, yeah, let's look at that. Can I have another example on that?
Sure.
Because I had this example where the patient has a latex allergy. And so we didn't have a non-latex kit. So we have to remove the Foley itself, the latex Foley from the kit.
Mhm.
And then that already exposes
Right.
with the latex. So I have to request a silicone Foley.
Mhm.
And I made an error because we had so many things going on before the case started that I accidentally forgot to remove the latex Foley and accidentally inserted that on a patient who has latex allergy.
Mhm.
Okay. So I felt so bad and I informed the surgeon because I need to let the surgeon know in case
Yeah.
there were actions. Like it
Right.
may be the and I felt so bad. And then going home, I was reflecting for the day. I then the next day I asked the central supply, do we have a non-latex kit? Because that's what I requested from the beginning. We do not have a non-latex kit. And so I went to my manager at that time. Why don't we have a non-latex kit? I had this incident. That's the reason why I have to create an incident report to
Right.
report the incident to the quality department, right? So improve the process. And so they keep on telling me that the latex kit, latex Foley kit is cheaper than the latex kit. So that's business, that's money.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, I know the representative for the Foley company, and I emailed and asked, what is the difference between the Foley latex and non-latex?
Mhm.
And it turned out the non-latex has not much difference. It's very, very, just a few cents. And then that's when the journey of having a non-latex kit in the Central Supply started. So that's when I kind of felt something. It's really not the user sometimes, or more
Right.
for the most. It's really not having the right tools needed to perform the job effectively and safely.
This is such a great example that gave me insight into one more thing, like assumptions. Do not assume anything. Ask, because had you not asked what's the difference, or why didn't you have non-latex polycate, you wouldn't have known the answer, right? I mean, in the situation, you had a mistake. It was your mistake, but you went beyond that. You went beyond that to ask the question that why didn't we have this? And the answer was cost. And when you asked for the cost information, you found out that the difference was not much. So what are we trading off? Are we trading off clinical adverse outcome, patient experience, negative patient experience, um, trauma for staff? Like, you are made to work in an environment where there is no system to deliver safe patient care. That's the trauma for staff. But you navigated all this because you wanted to ask the question, and you found the answer, and that ultimately made that improvement possible, right?
Right.
So do not assume is a big lesson for new nurses, I would say, or any nurse, I would say, because assumptions is a risk. Assumptions is a pure risk, and that can risk you personally, that can risk your patients, that can risk, of course, safety, and that ultimately risks everyone's experience, your own experience working in that situation, patient's experience, and ultimately business's experience. Because if a patient has negative experience, that's ultimately going to go to business side of it. It's a great insight. Thank you for sharing that story. I keep learning so much when I talk with, of course, leaders like you, and hear these stories. And that was my motivation. You were asking me why I created something like Satisfaction Farm. These stories are not told outside. Not everyone has access to stories like this, experiences like this. What can happen in situations? What is the potential? How can you access that potential? How can you realize that potential? And that's why I ask these questions, that this is practical advice. This is not theoretical something, imagination or hypothesis. This is practical advice. And that's why I have leaders like you, experts like you here talking about their experiences, how they handled it, and how that led to improving their own experiences and experiences for the people they work with, the people they work for, the businesses they work for, the organizations they were part of. So it's wonderful. And thank you for sharing all these interesting stories, Tims. Um, we will keep talking more. Keep checking out the new things we are in the process of putting out. And I hope we'll have more conversations like this, or more interactions, more collaborations in the future.
Yes, looking forward to that. And thank you so much, Amaya, for creating this satisfaction farm, because it helps a lot. Not only people, not only nurses, actually, everyone, because we really need to know more about the systems and processes and what's causing the burnout. So definitely, thank you for being a good resource, being a great co-worker. Thank you so much. You've been a pleasure, and you're a pleasure to work with. Thank you.
Thank you. Same here. Same feelings. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Tins.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.